A little while back, I was teaching a ministry class on outreach, and one of the assignments I gave to the students in the class was to identify a secular space, something that was definitely non-Christian, and to go and hang out there on a regular basis throughout the class, and to see if they could build friendships, strike up relationships, and especially to see if they could find their way into any spiritual conversations while they were there. One of the students would take his Bible and his ministry textbooks, and he picked a spot that was definitely very secular. He understood the assignment. It was one of these lounges with like a bar and some gambling machines, and definitely just kind of a hangout space that was, yeah, quite secular. And he hung out in there, and everyone knew he was a Christian. And again, he would go in there and study and read his Bible and stuff. But he also started a number of conversations. And while he was in there, he asked some of the guys that he saw on a regular basis. He said, "Listen, if I invited you guys to church, would you come?" And their response was immediate, without hesitation. Hell no. Now, don't cancel me. Okay. That was just their answer. Then he asked him another question, and their response was just as immediate. He said, "If we opened the Bible and read it together and prayed here in the lounge, would you guys do that?" And they said, "Yeah, we would do that." There's another question I like to ask sometimes. I actually learned this from another mission leader, but um, I'll be in a class or maybe a workshop setting. I'm teaching church leaders, and I like to ask the question: do you want to grow your local church, or do you want to reach your community for Christ? Now, inevitably, someone says, "Well, why can't we have both?" And my response is kind of a yes, you can, but it's a yes, but kind of response because here's the thing: if our number one objective, if what we're after is to see a local church grow, we can probably do that by having some of the best programs and attracting already Christians, people that are already followers of Jesus, already church people, to come and be part of that church. We just figure out what are the things that are attracting church folks to a church. We try to do those things, and we see the church grow. Um, and so we'll grow a local church, but there's a good chance we're going to miss our reaching our community. Now, if you want to reach your community, if that is the driving question, how do we reach this community? You probably will experience some growth in your local church. Why? Because that's going to be one of the primary drivers, one of the primary vehicles for reaching the community. Now, again, not everyone that is reached will probably end up in your local church. They may go to other churches. You may do church plants, house churches may pop up, all kinds of things. But probably a percentage of people that are reached because your church is a primary vehicle will end up in your church. Um, and so if we're just seeking to grow our local church, we might miss our community altogether. But if we're looking to reach our community and we're not concerned about necessarily getting 100% of these new people in our church, exclusively, but the real goal is reaching our community, there's a good chance that we'll also grow our local church. And thinking about both of those stories together, it really comes down to reaching people where they are. And when we talk about that, we often talk about it from the standpoint of reaching people where they are in terms of their own spiritual journey. Very true. But sometimes reaching people where they are is literally, physically reaching people where they are. And so, if we're going to be a church that is on mission for the gospel, for seeing people come into the kingdom of God and become followers, become disciples of Jesus, often what that's going to look like is the church kind of getting out of the church, being with people where they are, seeing this living witness of the gospel, representing Christ in all sorts of spaces throughout our city. And so, if we're thinking about it that way, for a lot of us that have served the church, we have to ask the question: do we really want to reach our community?